Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we are here breaking down anti-racism versus non-racism and looking to make sense of this video clip that we just saw from the gentleman giving his perspective of anti-racism versus non-racism, why one, the way the presentation is, one is better than the other. So we're going to dive into it and see how it pertains to us and see how we can use these concepts, if we can use these concepts at all, to actually make sure it translates to real change and real action, because that is one of the things that the brother talked about, is doing something real. So what does that mean in relation to the concepts of anti-racism and non-racism? So Professor Carl Tone Jones, my brother, you teach at a college, so you got to start us off.
Yeah, see, that's one of the problems with this over intellectualism. It's like, sometimes we try to say shit that sounds so smart it sounds stupid, and I'm trying to get better, y'all. I promise y'all.
Yeah,
So I'm on my 12-step program. I'm trying to get better, but
and the grumpy old man.
so I agree with one part of what he was talking about with the concept of the non-racist. I don't believe you can call it a non-racist, because a non-racist, like, basically somebody, according to his definition, is somebody who just chooses not to engage
Right.
in any of the social strife. And I believe at first I thought he was talking about everybody, but then I realized he was talking to black people when he finally summed it up in terms of people who just try to be inactive and blend in. But that doesn't necessarily make you non-racist. And first of all, black people really can't be racist, but we don't want to get into that conversation tonight. But, well, exuders of racism, rather. So when I heard him say that, I started thinking about all the people who just sit idly by and try to stick their head in the ground and pretend like as long as I don't make any noise, I don't have to worry about it. It's not going to happen to me. But you can clearly see that all the black people that got killed, none of them were activists. None of them identified as Pan-African. None of them identified in any movement. In fact, I think the only black person of note that actually ended up dead or, deleted was Sandra Bland, who was actually identified as somebody who was identified as an activist. And so I get that part, but if you're still participating in the system of white supremacy, which we are currently living, then that makes you a white supremacist. It doesn't make you a non-racist. It makes you a white supremacist, black, white, whatever your color is. Now, I'm looking up this anti-racist pedagogy that he's speaking about, and I did a little search real quick, and I found out that came off of comes out of the school of critical race theory, which racism is not there, and it speaks to the fact that to be anti-racist is to do things to counter racism. And let's just flow with this for a second, because I think that when it identifies, when you look at it identifies dealing with the pedagogy of racism through a social injustice lens, so an act of social injustice. But racism as it's practiced in America, especially towards black people and globally towards black people, is not social injustice. This is warfare. And because if you can call it social injustice, then you can speak to your non-actions and you can make it non-threatening when you're responding to it. But when you say you're responding to being warred on, it kind of makes you a threat. And most black people are afraid to become that threat, because through our epigenetic memory, through our socializing and our conditioning here in America, we understand that once you become a threat, threats get eliminated when you start speaking out against racism, white supremacy. And we have an ample history proving that one way or the other. So it's either going to be a character assassination or it's going to be the real deal. So we understand that. And so therefore people like to dance and become more intellectualized, because they think that being intellectualized is safer. But it's not social justice. It's full spectral dominance warfare on every aspect, every angle. And this is why when we address these matters, we have to treat it with a little more veracity, a little more seriousness, because and a little more heart, so that we don't come off as this soft, nasally, academic, non-threatening Negro. You know what I'm saying? Spewing these talking points that lead to little or no justice and no action. So, and with that, man, I land the plane because I know we're going to come back to some other things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you say you thought, because I took it as he was talking to white folk.
Well, I thought that as he started off, he was talking to white folk because typically,
Mm-hmm.
especially when people start identifying with critical race theory, but some of the things that he said toward the end gave me the impression that he was speaking to black people who were basically inactive or non-active in regards to dealing with racism. Now, it could be wrong because if he's talking to white people, they're not active, and I get it.
Well,
You know,
well, well.
well, I mean, well, listen, if we had power and we were running the world, why in the hell would we give up that power when we lose something in the outcome? I mean, it's
Now,
the
now,
one thing that we don't really address in regards to
right,
racism. White,
right. I try to say it as much as I can on this channel. I try to say it as much as I can. Like the people in power don't have to give up their power just because we want them to. But so now, as you as we're talking here about our different perspectives of who he was talking to, you just made me think though. He might have been talking to both black and white people throughout that because it did have the tone of talking to white people toward the beginning, and then you have the tone of the black people. So it could be talking to multiple groups of people or just people and making that blanket statement. But to me, I took it as, and especially from the first half and one of the parts that he said in the second half, I took it as he was talking to white people. So one of my thoughts was, well, you got to really understand racism. Because if you don't understand racism, that'll have you making videos like this. I'm just saying making statements to people who don't care. But before I get fully into mine, Pat, give us your thoughts, my
Mm-hmm.
brother.
I think he was talking to everybody.
Okay.
I picked up where both you guys were coming from, but I also understand this type of thinking. They try to make broad brush statements regularly, like they're trying to capture everyone. They want to speak to everybody with their messages, and with this message in particular, it's unneeded because, like, I agree with what PC said. We really don't need anti-racist, non-racist, and racist. We like that's unnecessary complication. Look, either you're a racist supporter, or you're not. That's what we've had. That's all we've needed. Why do we have to change it to like non and anti and this and that and all of those are terms that's academic speak that does nothing but confuse the masses. And they haven't learned how to talk to people. Like this is the same problem that various segments of the that are trying to gain prominence in various other communities that consistently change their terminology and change the way they speak. They're having problems catching on with masses because to the masses you're unnecessarily complicating the situation. But to a bigger question, why are we continuing this tactic of trying to shame people into action? That's my okay. So I don't want to do what you want me to do. And because I don't want to do what you want me to do, because if I do what you want me to do, my family's at risk, my livelihood's at risk, everything that I've worked for, my life is at risk, my legacy is at risk, and you want me to put all that on the line because you think I should, and your grand motivational push to get me to throw my life away for a cause that you think is worth it is to shame me?
Well,
Well, to me, I'm like, guess what you just did? If I was a white person that didn't like black people, now I hate you. And if I was a black person that didn't think that way, well, now I'm different from you. Like, you ain't doing nothing but giving everybody a reason to not like you. It's not in, I'm like, it's not tactical, it's not strategic, it's not intelligent. Even if what you're saying makes sense, the delivery of it does nothing but antagonize people that at your core you want to help you. What's the point?
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually know a woman, white woman, who did what you just said, who actually went out there and challenged her whole township right outside of Philly, well-to-do white township. But so what ended up happening is the whole township turned her own black children against her, and eventually had her committed to an insane asylum here in Philadelphia.
I think I remember
Like,
you talking about that before.
yeah, I mean, I witnessed this shit, and then I've had like white women that I know come to me, especially during like the Trayvon Martin the Zimmerman fiasco concerning Trayvon Martin, and how they wanted to speak out, but they knew the consequences of speaking out against their community. They would be ostracized. And it
Right.
ain't like we got shit over here that we can do for them.
So you
I
can't
mean,
be
I
mad
think
at
about it like this, right? I mean, it's not in their best interest. We got black people who don't think it's in their best interest to stand up for black people, to build for black people, to work with black people, to network with black people, to control, to build power with black people. We got black people who will throw black people under the bus. Listen, if you could wash this blackness off and gain white privilege with a special soap, you could sell that shit on Amazon for $15,000. Negroes will be out here pouring in their children to get to that shit. In a lot of cases, unfortunately. Now, people can talk that fly shit all they want. The results are the results. If it was different, our community would be different. Period. So,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? We really have to deal with the reality of the fact that we want other people to do the work we're supposed to do. Black people are supposed to be building power for black people. We know that we're in a war against white supremacy. We know that there are people that uphold white supremacy as the system and as a power construct and a social construct in this country and everywhere else on the planet where they maintain some sort of dominance. We know this. There's no way in hell that they're
So
just going to relinquish this.
my I'm not gonna lie. It took me a while to kind of figure out where I want to go with this video. And I just decided to just go with how I really feel. We can't intellectualize ourselves out of racism. Show me anywhere in human history where black people, white people, Asians, Arabs, Pacific Islanders, anybody on the face of the earth at any point, any time in history who were oppressed were able to intellectualize themselves out of oppression. Because I don't know about nobody who had been able to do that because they wasn't intellectualized into oppression. They were physically put into oppression because they were under the authority of a more powerful group. So I'm not understanding why we continue to try to complicate this shit. Neely Fuller, if you don't understand what racism, white supremacy is, everything else you try to understand will only confuse you. And these motherfuckers are out here confused. Let's just say it, call it what it
And
is.
that's why
Because
ain't shit happening.
like you said, it's either white supremacy or it ain't. Why are we going to this? Well, if you're not taking any, what is real action? Because that's one of the questions I wrote down. What is real action? Is
bullshit.
that
That's
the action that is it marching? Is it protesting? Is it having a
No,
I mean, because those things
no.
have already proven to not work the way we do it, because it's not coupled with any power, any structure, any military might, or anything like that that can actually put some real fear in another group of people. So we're just marching and hoping to appeal to the morals of our oppressors. I wrote morals down because that's one of the things he talked about. Morals.
Well,
This is
no, I'm sorry,
Go
but
ahead.
that's a question for him. Like you're saying it's not enough for you to not do anything because black people are still getting killed on college campuses. What would you like them to do?
Right.
Like that's part of the reason why I'm like this serves no, like what's the point? Do you want them to get their guns and go out and patrol college camp? Like what do you want?
That's where I was. That's my question. That's part of the I guess the bewilderment that I have after watching this, because what real action is it? Like if I'm a young impressionable black person, like I was when I was 18, 19, and I'm just starting to get into the black conscious stuff, and I come across this video and I get revved up from this. What real action do I take? Because now, okay, now he told me to go do something real. So what is that? Because he didn't say what that was in the video. But what is real action? And how is that supposed to really challenge the system of white supremacy?
see, I was looking for my Thanos ring,
Mm,
the reality
Somebody,
ring. Yeah, made
mm.
by my brother in Kruma. He made the same wristband. A
okay.
new metal design. So listen,
The reality stone.
reality stone, bro. I was looking for it. Here's the thing, right? These these cats only want to gaslight somebody else to do stuff they don't have the courage to do themselves. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of my biggest problems with intellectuals. They hope to stimulate. They hope to encourage. They hope to motivate the next group. Like I'll never forget the time I had put out a post on Facebook about something about you know um, us being cowards for not addressing certain situations. And a brother chimed in and said that that's why I'm teaching my son so that he'll have all the knowledge so he can fight the wars tomorrow that we can't fight today. And I said, so let me get this straight. You yourself acknowledge that we're in the war, but instead of you actually being the soldier and the warrior, you want to train your son to do something you're afraid to do. And that's what a lot of this is. See, Joe, these are people that never leave the coffee shop. See, these
I
are the
know
ones that
that.
sit around the coffee
Mhm.
shop. They have their tea and crumpets, and they're having this intellectual, stimulating intellectual debate. And then they go to the bookstores and they go to the libraries, and then they hope to get a speaking engagement on the stage, talking to a bunch of young, inspirational, but very non-nuanced college students who they can then radicalize to do some wild and crazy shit. But there's no structure, there's no plan. See, back in the day when people would get together and have conversations around political education, it was because they took that information and then practically applied it to whatever else they were trying to do. They
Well,
didn't take the go ahead,
that
I'm
was the
sorry.
whole purpose of the spook who sat by the door.
Right. Well, that was even more because Spook who sat behind the door actually learn he did what the talented temp was supposed to do. That was literally like alliteration of what the talented temp was supposed to do is get what you need and bring it back home and teach your people. Um, and they also talked about that in the trick baby. You know what I'm saying? In the trick, you know. But what we have here, I mean, first and foremost, we just have people who and I had to catch myself because I was gonna say something really wild. We got people
Not this
who
week.
masterful editing last week, by the way. Um, we- but we really have a bunch of people who are afraid to do what needs to be done because they understand that if I step over this line, that there is a power on this earth that we're afraid of. And not saying it is really a shot at your ego and low self-esteem. Acknowledging it, acknowledging your enemy for who they are and the power that they yield and they wield and the effects of the type of damage they can do to you is smart in certain situations. This whole bravado, or we're not scared of this, bullshit.
But
You know,
also, man, look, let's okay. I am all for education. I'm all for learning. I'm all for developing yourself intellectually. I'm all for that. That's the whole channel is built around that stuff. But I'm all for truth as well. And I'm all for real action, right? So we have examples, historical examples of groups of people who couldn't read, who were conquering groups of people who could read. Right? So we don't need to be intellectuals to have power. We need to unite. So you mean to tell me groups of people who couldn't read throughout history didn't even bathe? They didn't bathe and they couldn't read, but they knew how to unite. Them being able to unite and being and warfare being something that they embraced. They faced other people who wasn't really serious about that warfare, and they were able to conquer those people. So let's just be real. We got real historical examples. So let's not. I don't want people to think that we have to be intellectuals to gain power. No, we don't.
Well, I think somewhere along the lines got crossed, and because intellectualism doesn't mean educated. Educated doesn't mean intelligent, and being literate doesn't mean anything. So those people that weren't necessarily literate or educated were still intelligent in terms of what they needed to do. They were strategically and tactically more advanced than the people they conquered. And when we start, this is where we need to start having these conversations about intelligence is the ability to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Using
solve your problems.
Right. Using whatever resources you have at your disposal. Somebody that can't solve their problems is somebody that would be deemed less intelligent than somebody that can. All other things being considered equal. So if you have the resources, you can afford to be a little bit less creative. If you don't have the resources, you need to be a little bit more creative. But if you're brilliant, like we like to say we are, then you need a lot less resources to accomplish amazing things than somebody that's not as brilliant. So these are like the conversations where I begin to say, like, okay, so like when we start talking about elegance, like creating an elegant solution. An elegant solution is a wonderful way of saying a simple solution. No wasted steps. Every step is necessary. There are no unnecessary steps. Racism, anti-racism, that's not elegant. That's not simple. That's unnecessarily complex. But it makes the people that understand it feel intelligent. Well, no, you're still stupid. Here's why. Because that doesn't help you solve any problems.
Yeah. Hell, as a matter of fact, no empire was ever able to spread without warfare, without arms, without muscle. So even the intellectuals who were part of those nations, the intellectuals, they were nothing without the armies that they were able to control.
Well, and then that we got to be clear, like, so being the intellectuals in the academia usually help in terms of preparation and planning,
right?
And in terms of quality of life for the people that already exist inside of a nation. But when it comes to acquiring and maintaining power, that's not an intellectual pursuit.
Right. Well, you talk about it all the time. The and within Black America, the intellects are not coupled with the movers and the shakers. We have no army, but the
Right.
intellects are not connected with like real resources and real people. And so there's a disconnect because and a lot of the intellects have put themselves in the silo because hey, I'm smarter than thou, you know. So we have a clear separation of things, but we need to understand. Well, once again, if you don't really understand racism, you make statements that don't make sense to people who understand racism because we got to understand racism don't have nothing to do with morals. Stop talking about morals. Racism don't have nothing to do with morals. White supremacy don't have nothing to do with morals, and white supremacy don't give a damn about your morals because if white supremacy gave a damn about your morals, it wouldn't still exist. So why do, like you said, stop trying to shame people. Morals and racism have nothing to do with each other. They do for you because we on the losing team. Duh. It make you, everything that matters to us because we're on the losing team. Well, why don't white people care about Black History Month? Well, why should they? Well, why don't Black people care about this? Why should they? How does it benefit them? How does it benefit the white supremacists to have morals about what they are doing to us to maintain power? What sense does that make? How is that productive to them? Once again, like Pat said earlier, how is that productive to them? Let's stop taking these same old arguments that haven't gotten us anywhere. That has nothing to do with power.
I give an example, and then I'm gonna shut up and let PC cook of the difference between educated and intelligent. I'm gonna use a common example too, right? Your educated Black doctor tells you that Black people historically have low levels of vitamin D. Right? Your educate is common. Like we talk about all the time how Black people have low levels of vitamin D because of the test, right? So that's what an educated doctor tells you. An intelligent person asks the question, okay, if I have low levels of vitamin D, what does vitamin D do? Oh, it's responsible for bone health, bone density. Okay. So if I have low levels of vitamin D, then I should be having bone problems. Well, but wait, Black people have the highest levels of bone health in America. We have the most dense, strongest bones in America. But at the same time, we have low levels of vitamin D. So an intelligent person would look at this and say, okay, there's something going on here because the outcome is not lining up with
Right.
what's supposed to be represented. Your educated doctor tells you this, and we're not going to get into what's really going on, but I'm using that as an example to say educated doesn't mean intelligent. Just because some smart person with a bunch of letters behind their name and a bunch of credentials says something that you have never heard before and don't really understand doesn't mean that they're smarter than you and they know what's going on. Ask a question. And a simple question here is, okay, racist, non-racist, anti-racist. How does any of that help me? If you don't know, guess what? Nobody does.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help. That's why, I'm questioning his overall, and anybody who thinks like that, because it's just not him, but it's his whole, he represents a whole group of people, a whole lot of people who think like that. Like, do you understand what racism, white supremacy truly is? Because if you do, then why are we talking about anti-racist versus non-racist? Why? Go ahead, PC, cook on it.
I'm gonna try to connect a few dots here, right? So just bear with me.
All right, I'm gonna go on mute.
No. So one of the things that Pat you brought up is the disconnect between the intellectuals and the people that's on the streets, the grassroots operations. And nothing is clearer than that than here in Philadelphia, right? where we have the sort of like founder of Afro American Studies in Malefi Sante, Dr. Malefi Sante at Temple University. And when you go to like they have a program every year, I forget the name of it, but it's a program every year where they sort of like bring all these intellectuals in. You know, I was talking to a good brother of mine. I'm not gonna mention his name, but he was actually at one of these conclaves, and one of the things that really disappointed him was the fact that there was no young, active grassroots members even present in this collaboration or this collection of these black, big-brained intellectuals. And it was more so like the intellectuals like to gather in their intellectual pods, but they don't necessarily intermingle with the situation that's going on. So it's kind of like the divide is increasing because that particular connection is not taking place. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The guy that did this video, based on what he was talking about in the subject matter, he was talking about this. This video had to be about what? Almost a decade old?
I don't know. I look and see.
Because he was saying that we just had the aftermath of the Mike Brown murder, right?
It was around Ferguson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's talking about Ferguson. So let's go back to that. So that was the summer where we first lost Eric Gardner in Staten Island, New York. He was choked out by the police. We had John Crawford III, who was killed in the Walmart in Beaver Creek, Ohio. Right. We had Mike Brown, who was murdered in Ferguson by law enforcement. And then we had Ezell Ford, who was killed in Los Angeles, all within the span of like 2.5 weeks, right? And this is sort of like when the country caught on fire. And so we had the outreach, the thing that was going on in Ferguson. Now, here's the interesting thing about how we actually tried to collaborate and connect the intellectual aspect to the actual grassroots. Patrick, you'll remember this because this was at the time when we were doing our podcast, and we were actually trying to put funds together to get you out to Ferguson. Do you remember that?
This was 7 years ago. The video was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
So we were trying to get Patrick out there. Why? Because Patrick shared was going to be sort of our diplomat and our regency to go out there and to actually reach those masses of people and to politically educate them on what needed to be done, because that's where you had the foot soldiers, the grassroots people in the ground that were actually out there working in Ferguson. We want to try to link up. Now, of course, we met some resistance here by some olders. That was a bad idea, but that was what we were trying to do. That's an example of actually taking the intellectual jargon that we put together and practically applying it by actually getting out there in the field and being amongst those people, not trying to gaslight them from a distance or a video or whatever with just rudimentary rhetoric from which you can clearly see you don't understand because the shit was so confusing. All three of us thought he was talking to somebody else. And to and to get that and to push it forward. Now, we often pointed to the fact that we didn't have the resources. Who did have the resources? Well, George Soros had the resources. So therefore, he was able to send his people out there and to cohabitate that particular group of young people who had no idea because they didn't have political education. So then they sort of fell in line. They started interrupting plays. They started disrupting traffic, laying down and doing die-ins and all this other stuff. And then they started working in with antics of antagonizing and like I said, and being disruptive. But none of that actually got you to your goal, because all those things are, first of all, antiquated ways of addressing anything we're dealing with in this day in unstructured time. But I point that out because, if you truly are trying to understand where we need to be in regards to dealing with, this war on black people, globally speaking, then black people have to understand the of how to organize, function from a place of, you know, where we create, where we address the critical masses, and we start moving quietly. And when I say quietly, I mean discreetly. But I'm saying this because trying to incite a group of people, particularly influential young people, is going to create more carnage, more crime. And you know the biggest thing that came out of all of this? The biggest winners in Ferguson were all the diners that were dying, all the local restaurants that people had to go to and eat because people were coming from out of town, all the local hotels that were suffering in that depressed area, right outside of St. Louis, and Walmart, because everybody was going to Walmart for supplies. Literally, Walmart was running out of shit to sell. When you have people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, trying to get people to move in a way just because you want to spark, this particular fire that's within these people, within our people, I have to start asking, which side are you working for?
Well, yeah. I mean, for a lot of us, and I can put myself in this at sometimes. Fuck out, fuck your legacy. Fuck your legacy, because you trying to cement your legacy ain't helping the overall bigger picture. So damn all that. So we need a new tactic. We need a new approach. Now he talked about real action. What is real action? And PCU was alluding to it, because a lot of the things that people are doing that they think can lead to some real solutions or some real movement, it's not happening. So I'm gonna go back to saying what I've been saying, and we've all been saying for a long time. All right. What are your skills? Fuck your passion. Passion ain't getting us nowhere. What are your skills? What are you good at? What is your profession? How do you go about making a living? What are things that you can do? Right. So my lane is HIV/AIDS prevention. Right. I didn't choose it. It chose me, and I'm still in it. HIV/AIDS prevention, Black history. So one of the ways that I'm choosing to fight white supremacy is looking at the realistic picture, because there are steps before steps. There are steps you got to take before you get to the boss. I don't know why y'all think we could just jump straight to the boss. There's steps you got to take before you get to the boss, right? No matter what, no matter how you feel in your heart, don't nobody give a damn about how you feel. You still got to have steps to get to the boss. So, all right, like use me as an example. My lanes are HIV/AIDS, Black history. So within HIV/AIDS, HIV/AIDS has affected the Black community for so long. Majority of the people that are affected by HIV/AIDS are Black men. Majority of the people that I tell, though they are HIV positive, are Black men. So my work in this is sexual health, sexual education, sexual responsibility, behavior changes, making real changes. So affecting people's lives in a practical, realistic way where we can see real change happening. So kind of like if you were a football coach, good, be a football coach, but be a football coach with the mindset of I'm instilling things into these young football players that should help them be able to come soldiers in the army against white supremacy, but also understanding why Black people need to work together, right? Understanding why, as a future generation, y'all don't need to operate like us. You all need to understand the power of unity. So teaching something different, get into your lane. Pat is he's a track coach, using track to not only build them up physically, but mentally, psychologically, emotionally, teaching them how to unite together. PC, you was in the hood with the kids reading the books. You had all the programs and things that you was doing. Keep doing those things. If you got programs with Black youth, keep doing those things. If you know how to work on cars, teach Black youth how to work on cars. But within that, teach them how using the lessons and the skills for this. How can we use this to unite and be able to be a true opponent against the system of white supremacy? Stop overcomplicating this stuff. It's not that complicated. What are you good at? What are your skill sets? Use your skills to help uplift.
But
Stop trying to intellectualize everything.
here's the problem with that, Joe.
It sounds too good.
It's too simple, but it's too complex at the same time.
I know. I know.
Um, it's too simple because it can't be that fucking simple, right?
Yeah, I mean, because look,
But,
we got to write a dissertation on this. So if I
right.
have to write a
So,
dissertation on this, it can't be that simple.
and here's the thing with the simplicity of it. If you're an academic, you should understand this well. Everybody don't need a PhD. Everybody don't need a master's degree. Everybody doesn't need to be a historian. Everybody doesn't need to be well read and well researched and have a thorough understanding of what's going on. That's not necessary. But at the same time, it's too complex because what you're talking about is a specific set of skills that should be taught to every human being as they grow and develop. That's not being taught.
I know.
So you're talking about knowing your lane, being able to analyze your own strengths and weaknesses. Well, what if I don't like my strengths and weaknesses? What if I don't know my strengths and weaknesses and I see you doing some fly shit? I want to do that fly shit too, and I do it better than he do. Yeah. So being able to put your arrogance and your ego, you said something else. You said, I didn't choose HIV, it chose me. Okay, being able to identify a purpose, a direction is a skill set. And being able to identify when your purpose has shifted is a whole other skill set. And people don't have either one of them.
Yeah, because but you're exactly correct in that, because there was a time where I was like, I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to do this for a certain amount of time and get out of this. But it just, something keep pulling me back into this and want to go further into this, because I'm like you say, it's a purpose, it's a calling, it's a thing that you got to recognize. But everybody has to sit down, and you got to take the time to sit down, but also understanding that everybody can't do that and everybody won't do that. But that's the whole purpose of the system.
Narrative, Joe.
Right. That's the whole purpose of the system. That's the whole purpose of the programming. We done fucked up and been able to take the red pill and be able to see the truth. We put the magic glasses on. Everybody has it.
But everybody wants to be able to do what they want to do. And here's the problem. As you get older, you learn, usually you learn otherwise. We're all either damn near 40 or over 40, right? We've learned life lessons that we've learned together over the last 10 plus years. Working together, we've learned a lot about how this shit works. Not the system of white supremacy. I think all of us kind of had that pretty well when we met each other, but we've definitely gained a deeper understanding of it over the last decade. But we learned, I would say the biggest education we got was in Black people over the last 10 years, 10 plus years.
Yes.
So, but it took us. So if you look at the people that are driving the movement now, they're 23, 24, 25 years old. 10 years ago, they was teenagers. 10 years ago, they was just becoming teenagers. The ones that are considered elder statesmen, 10 years ago, they was just graduating high school. They haven't, and nobody's teaching them. This is why what PC is doing so powerful, which is why what I'm trying to get into is about teaching people how to identify those purposes. Now, our focus is Black men, but everybody needs it. Women need it too. How to identify your purpose. How to identify, and it ain't like, I want to do this. Yes. No, that ain't what it is. It's not what it is. What are you called to do? Fuck how you feel about it. Are you good at it? Are you somebody that pick it up quick, and every time you go around, you usually can figure it out, and everybody's calling you up and asking you about it and talking to you about, well, there might be something.
That's your shit. That's your shit.
Fuck how you feel about it. That might be your shit. Find something to like about it because that's what you bring. But it takes a level of maturity too
I
to
had
be
to do
able to
that.
say, I fucking hate fucking everything about this, but I'm usually the best motherfucker around at it.
But because my thing was it wasn't hate. It was I never intended to do
Hate is
this.
strong, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, but no, but some people do hate. I don't hate it because I enjoy what I do. Like I have fun. I haven't had a day where I was like, damn, I don't want to go to work. I can't remember the last time I thought like that. But I didn't choose this. This is not like HIV/AIDS prevention is not what I wanted to do, but I'm so fucking good at this shit. So in
And
my mindset was always to just do this for a little bit and then go on and do something else. But it's just like I can't. Not only am I good at it, I have a passion for it. Like I love this shit, and it has led me to be able to get on college campuses and make an impact on college students.
I think, and I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna shut up because PC need to cook. Um, yeah, I'm gonna keep saying that. Because and I think about it when you said that because PC was the one that really like was the first one to push, and there have been numerous other people since then that have pushed. But like I've learned, like I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like wake up and yay, but like the track coaching, I teach. They respond. We win medals, Junior Olympics. Yeah. Um, the school program I work at, I teach critical thinking. They go to the beta club. They spanking people's asses. Yeah, we think better than y'all. Even in the college classrooms, having the teachers telling me when I'm teaching the information from a chapter, oh, Patrick, you might be a teacher.
You is. I've
Yeah,
been telling
I
your
don't.
ass that.
But right, but I say, and I know you have too, Joe. And I bring up PC because PC was the first person that I think I want to say the first time I heard PC say it was damn near 10 years ago. And ever since then, it's been a constant drum of Patrick, you might need to, like, I know you don't really like to, but maybe a college classroom is, but and he's been consistent with that. And he can tell you, I've been consistent with telling him, I don't really want to do that shit. But it's about like you just said about figuring out like the
I'm good at that
HIV
shit.
thing. Like it's kind of like, all right, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't really want to do it. But I don't have a problem with now it's understanding. No, this is what you do, which is the genesis of the conversation that I've been having with PC about the group, and helping boys transition into manhood. A critical component of that is teaching some of those skills that would allow them to do the shit that
Well,
you
they got to
just
come see
said.
me. Look. Everybody in Tallahassee already know I got the realest safe sex class probably in the state of
Oh, we
Florida.
definitely gonna bring you up when it comes to fucking.
I got the realest safe sex class in the state of Florida. Everybody want to sign their sons up to come and sit down and talk to me about safe sex. I've done safe sex with all the young teen male groups, adult groups, across everybody like my shit. And matter of fact, I was at an event last week, and the lady was like, I remember you came to our job and you did a safe sex class. You need to take your act on the road. I'm working on that right now. But it all ties back to us being able to recognize our weapons against the system of white supremacy. We don't have to overthink this shit. We don't have to be intellectuals. You don't have to be whatever. You don't have to be Malcolm X. You don't have to be Harriet Tubman. You don't have to be none of these things. You need to be you. They were them. Harriet Tubman followed her calling. Malcolm X followed his calling. Everybody who you like, they were in their lane, found their lane, and they used it. That's why we like them, because it was natural to them. It was who they were. Stop forcing stuff. Stop trying to be the blackest person in the room. Stop trying to be the smartest person. Stop doing everything that we've been doing that haven't given us real progress, real results. You don't stop overthinking this stuff and stop showing the world that you don't understand racism. By trying to break down racism into subcategories like that means anything. You either a white supremacist or you ain't. And if you support white supremacy, you're a white supremacist. And just that simple. So let's stop overcomplicating this stuff. It's really not that serious. All right. And remember, groups of people who didn't wash their ass and couldn't read were able to conquer other groups of people who could read. So what that tell you? There you go. Unity in the community. Hey, unity in the community. That UNITY.
This is the PC need to cook message.
Well, first of all,
Cabbage Patch. So, y'all stupid, man. So.
But and I'm gonna say this, and y'all give me a lot of platitudes, and I truly appreciate it, truly humbled by it. But I learned, I think, more from you than I've ever taught you. And so, I want to just, first of all, give y'all flowers, because I do. When I was working with the children and working with teaching them how to read, and I don't say teaching them how to read, but teaching them, and we had Freedom School on my porches, I was showing them videos of On the Shoulders of Giants.
That's what's up. I appreciate it.
And
you made this shirt.
Right. And yeah, that was I gotta get back to that. But and when it came to just seeing how to actually bridge that gaps in terms of where I was coming up short. I was watching 2 minutes with 4 minutes with Pat. So was it 4 minutes with Pat?
It kept changing. First it was 5 minutes with Pat, then it was 1 minute with Pat, then it was a few minutes with Pat, then it minutes with Pat. It kept changing.
That's what she said. Right.
Read between the lines, Negro. But I'm sorry, while PC's laughing, I do want to apologize before I forget. I just had a Negro moment and ate a bite of chicken.
Man, nobody care.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Chicken's good. But so, and I say that to say, I don't interact with people who are not smarter than me, and I interact with you brothers all the time because I learn so much from you, and I think that, so I'm going to tell you, you are intellectuals, and intellectuals in the purest form, because the way you're able to take sophisticated concepts and break it down to simplistic terms in which you can teach children. I mean, Joe, you have 4 books just doing that. Patrick, you wrote a whole book breaking down the entire Black community, and you wrote several books, but I'm just talking about your most recent one. The Chasm, where you've intellectualized the discord and disconnect between Black men and Black women. So, but you're also dark workers. You also hit the ground. You also are in the community. You're not just, you wear many hats. You're not, so you have a lane, and these are things you're great at. But you also understand that you can also be diverse in the other things too. Showing up at town council meetings and town hall meetings and being a force in the communities, which you both do. Also being working with parents, because not only do you teach children, you teach their parents, and that's something you both do. And trying to you're doing the work that goes beyond a job description, and you're doing the grassroots work, because this is the work that's foundational on the ground. This is the stuff that that communities are made of, and it's work that the village needs. And if more people did it, the old African saying that many hands make light work, it wouldn't be so heavy. We've all been at that place where we're saying, I'm tired of this shit. You know, and I was telling Pat, we was talking earlier, one of my most esteemed Jagners is Professor James Small. And I was talking to him, a little bit ago, and I was saying, after, checking up on him, um, he gave me some messages. One was to make sure that we continue to check on our elders and make sure that, especially the ones that put in the work, to make sure that they're doing okay. So that's one of the messages. That's one of the things that I'm doing a little more of and getting back to. But another part was because I asked him, I said, Bob, I'm tired. I said, do you understand that the majority of the people that fall into this place of Pan Africanism, Black nationalism, and Black consciousness, that a lot of them are sick? Like, and I'm asking them, is it just me, or is that really what's going on? And hey, brother Kyle, um, our people are broken, and when people are broken, you know, it's your if it wasn't for broken people, you wouldn't have a cause, you wouldn't have a purpose. And I had to, and it really humbled me to hear him say that,
That's
because
real though.
yeah, how broken our people are. Because I had to say, Bob, I'm broken too. I'm part of the people. He said, but yeah, brother Carl, but you're a light. And when people are broken, they often search for the light. And I said, no matter how many times I pull away, no matter how many times I withdraw, I find somewhere else somebody's plugging me into something. Somebody's pulling at me. Somebody's coming. And he said, well, that's because of the light. And they want a piece of that light. And that's what you brothers are. You brothers are light. And it's hard because our people are broken. And when you understand the brokenness of our people, you understand why they tug it so much of your light. But you also have to, and there's one thing else he said, 'cause I said, Bob, even with the light, the brokenness comes with some darkness. And I don't want my light to be consumed by that darkness. And what I mean by that, I mean the drama, the chaos, the backbiting,
The
the
nigga shit.
yeah, thank you, the nigga shit.
Yeah.
And he said, well, sometimes you have to let people know that your hands are full because you are actually living your purpose. And it's ironic that you said what you said earlier, Joe, about Malcolm, about Harriet, about Frederick Douglass and all
They
these
were
other people.
doing, they were doing their purpose. They were doing what they were put here to do. They weren't trying to be, Malcolm X wasn't trying to be Malcolm X. He became Malcolm X just genuinely making a contribution.
And that's, and word for word, that's literally was what he said. And and like you said, our purpose right now has been working to sort of, help our boys turn into men, our forgotten children, you know, and to get those boys into men. That's been very heavy in terms of, on our hearts recently, and the purpose that we're addressing. And he said, well, that's your purpose, brother Carl. That's your purpose, and you are here to do what you're here to do. You're not here to do what other people's jobs are. You are here to do what you're here to do. And that's what we have been doing, what we're here to do. And understanding that is sort of like when we look at the video earlier, and I hope that brother's message has become, I hope he's become a little more nuanced. Like, I hope we can able to actually check him out and find out that some years down the line, he was able to sort of go back and redress that message.
Yeah, because I get the mindset because I was there once. So I get the mindset. So, and I'm glad you said that because I don't want, if you watching this long, we ain't beating up on the brother. We beating up on the mindset because I was there before.
We all were. We all knew some shit we thought we knew until we realized we didn't know shit.
Look around. Look around you. But that's that and my community is being gentrified. South City projects don't exist no more. So Pat, you come to Tallahassee, drive down Orange Avenue, South City projects it's not there no more. And they're trying to save Hollyfield, but we don't know how long it's gonna last. They about to run
Man,
up.
that's crazy because I was thinking about driving down there tomorrow.
Yeah, South City is gone. They have new purpose-built communities that they're building up. They're about to put a road. I'm on the outskirts of the Providence community, but my community, the Providence community, it's the community I grew up in. There's a road, Lake Bradford Avenue, and there's a community, and then the other side of Lake Bradford is in the airport. They're about to run a road right through the community. So people gonna have to go. Stuff is being gentrified around here, and we're losing. We're losing in real life. So let's start living in real life and fighting in real life instead of fighting the superficial battles that we know don't yield us any real results. Put down the dumb shit, put down the bullshit, put down the stuff that hasn't served us. And let's adopt new behaviors, new mindsets, new customs that's going to help us get some real results. Stop trying and just do. And that's the message. Joseph Ward, Patrick Irvin, Professor Carl Tone Jones. As y'all know, fatlifestation.com. Make sure y'all check it out. Make sure you support. If you ain't, then you missing it because you tripping. So love you all. Make sure y'all catch the next video.